welcome you all for this wonderful session, the Bharat Darshan by Devesh ji. See, what really inspired me was he had COVID and he was so positive. In fact, I used to talk to him quite frequently those days. And his positiveness and a fully self-motivated man and amazing. And he was bubbling with energy. I think, and within 2 weeks, he also announced that he's taking this Darshan, Bharat Darshan in the bike. Actually, I was a bit shocked actually. He should be a madman, I told myself. But really, really hats off to you, Devesh. You have made us really proud. And every day I was praying for a successful visit. And whenever he sends me the photographs, I feel very enthralled and immediately I used to send him the message. But I think hats off to you. And he has really not only inspired us, he has inspired millions of Indians because this is a great and big moment for BCAC also. And I requested Devesh, he should share his experience with all of us. And in fact, he told me several things, the experience with the tribals, the local villages, the way people look at India and the image of India. I think I told him he should write a book on this. In fact, my own experiences. And he has said definitely he will look into that. So BCAC is very, very happy. And we literally feel so happy on your achievement. And hats off to you. Now it's over to you, Devesh.
Thank you, President, and all lot of encouragement from you. And there are, of course, three bikers that I know of that are in this group. One, of course, is Srijan Vadera. He is a member of course, he's a Harley owner, so that makes him a hog, as we like to call ourselves.
Congrats,
Harley
Srijan.
group.
Congrats.
And he's also a fellow touring rider. So that means he and I own the highest level of Harley Davidson class of motorcycles, which are the touring category. They're meant for long distance interstate kind of travel. And we have Ganesh Swaminathan as well as Mr. Balamurugan, who are also very avid bikers. I did not know that Ganesh was an avid biker till I met him in our Rotary group. We have a group of bikers called the International Fellowship of Motorcycling Rotarians, and he's a member there. So we do have a lot of bikers in the group. There is a saying amongst bikers. We say, four wheels move the body, two wheels move the soul. And the freedom that one experiences on a motorcycle, because you get a full view of everything around you, is unimaginable. And I urge all my fellow business leaders, take the time to get into your car, go travel around the country. It is really eye-opening as to so many small details we can pick up, what kind of opportunities are available in the rural areas, how people live their life across the country, various things. I met a Sardarji in north near Jalandhar, between Ludhiana, on my way to Kashmir, and he was telling me that they have modified their fuel tanks to carry almost 1,000 liters of diesel, because he says the Punjab government subsidizes diesel. So when he comes to Bangalore, and he comes regularly, at least once every 2 months, he comes to Bangalore, if not once a month. He says, at least I can save, some part of the diesel. If I save even 3-4 rupees over 1,000 liters, that works out to 4-5,000 rupees for me savings. It's earning for me. So things like this, which we can, appreciate and share with our government, is very insightful. Why did I do this ride? As you pointed out, I had exited Corona on October 3rd, and I actually started this ride on October 17th. The main ride I started on October 22nd. The first day, on 17th, I did Bangalore to Kanyakumari, to Coimbatore and back, and I wanted to see if I had the stamina to continue for the rest of the ride. As Srijan said, he said he considered me a mad fellow for doing this ride, but I wanted to prove not just to myself, but to others that COVID-19 can be fought. Because I saw a lot of defeatism in many people. Oh, I've got COVID, now I'm dead. I said, no, it's not. You got it. It can be, it can be recovered from, and you will come out stronger. That was one. Second, a lot of people had, doubts about is it safe to travel? Is it safe to stay? So much so that coincidentally, I had met the country head of the Accor Hotel Group, which is, Novotel, Ibis, Pullman, etc. Little before I got Corona, and I talked to him about this ride, and he was so encouraged. He says, "Okay, Devesh, at least in 6 of the cities that you are going, I have hotels. I will sponsor your stay there. I want you. I mean, I'm enthused. So in this way, I received a lot of moral encouragement from many people. And the last reason was that there was a kind of a moral imperative that I had. A fellow rider of mine who was to do this trip last year, I was to do this trip with her. She was considered one of the best women riders in India, and she met with an accident and passed away. And so she and I had planned to go to the northernmost dealership of Harley Davidson in India. And, the this thing, sorry, what happened here. So is the presentation visible? In case it's not visible, please feel free to interrupt me.
So perfect, perfect.
Okay. So Harley Davidson has this challenge.
Devesh, sir, sorry I'm interrupting, but I
Haji.
want everyone to know that Vedant has also joined, and Vedant is Devesh sir's son. And I can tell you, Devesh sir, you give tough competition at home itself, even in terms of riding. So I just want everyone to know that this young biker's son is also the one who rides with his dad. Sorry, Devesh sir, please
No,
continue.
right. In fact,
Oh,
we are planning to do a national ride this year. We are still debating what should we do, visiting all states of India or something like that. Not yet decided. So coming back, this lady Krupa Reddy, she passed away, and our plan last year was to go to the northernmost dealership of Harley Davidson in India, which is located in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And she passed away on the way back. So I said I have to go and visit that particular dealership in her memory. So these were the three sort of major reasons why I traveled. Of course, the 21 365 challenge of Harley Davidson was there. Harley Davidson had announced that it is exiting India, so this became even more imperative for me to complete this challenge for the last time. Being a foodie, I wanted to explore the country and its food. And of course, you always build bonds of friendship with any other biker. In the slideshow, you will see as I start presenting, I will talk a few things here and there and explain. So just to go back, I am sorry. So this was the route we took. We started from Bangalore through Belgaum, up through Bombay, Surat, Ahmedabad, and then up to Jaipur. And then from Jaipur to Delhi, from Delhi to Dehradun, Dehradun to Ludhiana, Ludhiana to Jammu. We had to cut short our trip at Jammu because three of our riders met with some form of calamity, and we were reduced to just two people. One of them was a 67-year-old gentleman. So I became a little concerned about going into very cold areas like Srinagar and all with him, with the possibility of corona at the age of 67. I didn't want to take a risk. Then we returned back through Chandigarh and down to Jaipur, down to Indore. And actually, we had originally planned to go through Bhopal, but then we took a kind of a shortcut and went straight to Nagpur, Hyderabad, Bangalore. And then from Bangalore, I traveled down to Kanyakumari and back again to Bangalore. So that is roughly the route I took. And my steed, as Srijan pointed out, this is a touring motorcycle model called the Road Glide. You'll see more of it in the pictures. It is one of the heaviest motorcycles Harley Davidson makes, and with the tour pack and everything added, the motorcycle weighs about 450 kilos. So it's almost like carrying a car on two wheels. So without further ado, I'm going to start a slideshow, and I'll keep speaking as the slideshow progresses. I would request you to please reserve your questions to the end. These things I've already covered. So first day, we did Bangalore, Coimbatore, and back to Bangalore, as I said. It's a distance of about 748 kilometers in a day. And this is the gentleman I wanted to specially thank. His name is Puneet Dhawan. He is the head of Accor in India. He is the one who sponsored a lot of our stay. That's his beautiful wife, Jyotika. That, of course, as I pointed out, is my road glide. So we embarked in the morning very early. Ideally, was to try to travel quick. We always travel with full safety gear. RI helmets are considered one of the best in the world. So these were the initial 5 bikes. You can see these are 2 models called the Fat Boy. Then in the middle, the brown bike is called a BMW GS Adventure. Then there is an older model Fat Boy in red, and the last bike, of course, was mine. These were the 5 of us. Left to right is Sanu Palil. This is Mr. Jagannath. He's the 67-year-old. Vinay Agarwal, myself, and Purna Chandra. Since we went to explore food, this is the very classic, vegetarian meal. And typically when we ride in the daytime, we eat very little because this thing. And on our trip, the first leg itself, we suffered a calamity. Purna Chandra's drive belt broke down. It snapped in 2. And so he had to drop out for the rest of the trip. On 22nd, we commenced our trip to the north from Bangalore to Belgaum. Started in a lot of rain. This is at the Parle-G toll, which is near this thing. And we were joined with this gentleman in blue on the blue GSA. His name is Anmol Singh Kapani. He's a Sardar. You will see him in other photos down the road. Our first stop was kind of a lunch at Mysore Cafe in just after Chitradurga. Very famous place for bikers. And you can see the kind of optimization we have to do in our luggage. We are carrying 15 days worth of luggage in just that much space. So we use a lot of quick dry t-shirts and things like that. This I told you is Jagannath. This is at the outskirts of Hubli. He's a 67-year-old retiree, man of tremendous determination. The next morning, we went from Kolhapur to Pune to Mumbai. Started off with a nice, lovely, foggy morning. This is at the Fairfield in Belgaum. We are particular about keeping our bikes clean, so you can see the water there. The first stop was at the Harley-Davidson dealership in Kolhapur, but unfortunately the dealership has already closed since Harley-Davidson announced its exit from India. So we started seeing dealerships starting to close. This, of course, is at the dealership in Pune. It's called Two Rivers. And this is part of the 21365. We get a card called the journey log, which we get stamped. This is the first, this thing, I'm just going to pause right here for a minute. This is the first hotel we stayed at. This was the Ibis in Navi Mumbai. Very warmly received. The gentleman GM now, the Kedar, he has moved to Goa. Very enthusiastic group. And we found that all the hotels are maintaining a lot of safety. I'll talk about the safety elements later. They have these pre-packaged dinners, and we were very tired. The roads were extremely bad in Maharashtra, some of the worst roads we came across in the country. And of course, we experienced the mother of all thunderstorms at Pune. Water to about 2.5 feet and all that. It became a mess. So we were thoroughly exhausted by the time we reached Mumbai. Even though it was just 480 kilometers, it really took the life out of us. So we were just happy to get a quick bite to eat, fell asleep. And next morning we departed, I think at about 5 in the morning. So that means we got up at 4 because we have to beat the Bombay traffic. It's a massive choke point right there. And this is where we met bikers from, this is at Palghar toll gate. This gentleman, these are bikers that from Bombay. And that is the thing. We bikers are all as a kind of a brotherhood. It's a community. We just meet each other on the road. And here you can see in the background, there is fog. Can you imagine fog in Bombay? You can see the top right of the picture. I stopped to take it just because I wanted to say I want to get a picture of the fog. We always believed in feeding stray dogs. We used to carry, Parle-G glucose biscuits, and we used to give it to dogs. They lead a very horrible life on the road, and the number of dead dogs we see is terrible. This is the Harley Davidson dealership in Surat. Again, very warmly received. And then we checked into the Novotel. I just tried an experimental photograph to show you the height of the hotel. And this is another way the hotel and the Accor group encouraged us. This note from the general manager, he called us heroes, and he kind of, they had this card lying on the bed as soon as we checked in, when we entered our room. These forms of encouragement, like exactly what Mr. Parsuraman was doing to me through the trip. These are the things that the mental encouragement that keeps one going. The hotel during Corona came out with a thing called Arogya Thali with various foods, mixture of veg, non-veg, and you can see that they show the medical benefits. And this is the thali. This is, just going counter from the leftmost. It's a simple moong salad with paneer, and then that is fresh turmeric. And there is spinach, and there's a special dal, and there's a meat and a chicken, and of course roti, rice, papad. A fantastic modified Gujarati thali. And the best part is they had each chef in their hotel come up with one dish. Next day we departed to Jaipur, one of the longest legs of our trip, 730 kilometers. So this time we decided to eat breakfast and essentially ride. Sorry, you're saying something? You said something, Prithvi?
So it is not me, sir. Somebody else. Could go ahead.
Achha,
Sir.
okay. Sorry. So this is breakfast, and we left. This is at the hotel. They asked for a lineup. They wanted some photos. I said, okay, let's go for it. You can see all the bikes. Sorry. This is some of the vistas I wanted you to show. This is in between Mehsana in Gujarat and Mount Abu. You can see already the vegetation and the flora is becoming more distinct. This is in the foothills of Mount Abu. You can see Mount Abu there on the left, and all the various trucks that are traveling. And it was interesting. Up in Rajasthan, I saw this one truck from Tamil Nadu, so I turned around and I yelled to him, "Yapri irkinge," and all that. The guy, the cleaner was, maha thrilled that, somebody was speaking Tamil to him way up north. So these are the kind of little moments on the road one tends to remember. This is as we are descending from Mount Abu. You can see now a lot of rocks, sand. You can make out the desert type of greenery. This is the kind of views we saw. And, this is why we like to ride bikes, because I will show you the next one. See, imagine this view. Photographs, of course, do not do justice, but this is the kind of views we experienced. This is what we ride for. And this is at the end of the day, just to show you, we covered 731 kilometers. We were very warmly welcomed at the Fairmont Hotel. It's a palace. In fact, Srijan Vadera was the GM at the Fairmont prior to coming to Bangalore. So if anybody wants to know about the beauty of that particular hotel, he will be the best person to talk to you about it. But it's a really, really luxurious. It is essentially a palace, fantastic, beautiful, it's ultra luxurious hotel. This is a garden they have right near the entrance in the quadrangle. Beautiful lights and everything. We were welcomed with literally a bicycle rangoli. And of course, some of you would have seen the video earlier. We were presented with the Jaipuri, like a equivalent of the tie and dye, the Bandhani design, a peta in the Bandhani design. And of course, our motto, 4 wheels move the body, 2 wheels move the soul. And then we were treated to this fantastic dinner of various Rajasthani delicacies, presented in a very, very unusual manner, and the best part is that the chef there, the number of chefs I met who have moved from Bangalore to various parts of the country. Bangalore is truly the center of innovation when it comes to food. The modern chefs, they're getting trained, they sharpen their skills in Bangalore, and then they move out. We were seated out in the terrace, for a pure, really royal Maharaja style Rajasthani thali. Very elegant seating. You can see whole varieties of veg and non-veg kind of food, but all very typical Rajasthan, or in an interpretation of Rajasthani food, just some of the food that we were having. The next morning was just a short ride. We were again given a royal send-off. The gentleman holding the flag is Rajiv Kapoor. He is Srijan Vadera's successor, and fantastic gentleman, really looked after us. In Delhi, this person, this Sardar in the middle, his name is Harpreet Singh Khurmi, and he is one of the most experienced riders in India. I think he has done almost 140,000 or 150,000 kilometers on his Harley in India. He used to be the regional director of the North, very, very respected. And this is how those brotherhood and bonds are formed. He came personally, said, okay, come on, I'm escorting you to the dealership. Took time out of his day to come and, spend time with us. Fantastic gentleman. We asked the hotel, boss, our bikes are dirty, so they gave it a nice wash. So here it is gleaming in the night light, This is a full view of the bike. This is Jagannath's bike. The model is called a Fat Boy. The next morning we went to Dehradun, and again you can make out, the kind of little foggy weather en route. Again in the foothills, you can see Dehradun is 51 kilometers from here. IIT, Roorkee, all these are, known these things. And wherever we stopped, we attracted attention. This is in the foothills of the Himalayas. And then, of course, we enter Punjab. And if you're going to be in Punjab, then you have to eat kukkad. So this was Ludhiana. This was our dinner in Ludhiana. If you're in Ludhiana, you have to eat the obligatory butter chicken and kali dal with the naan and the kulcha. Next morning, early morning, we departed for Jammu. Again, about 630 kilometers. This is what the site, we see the fog and the sun is rising. These are such picturesque moments one enjoys across. And I think at that time, the temperature was about 14 degrees. And this is, of course, Jammu and Kashmir was one of the only states that had a mandatory COVID-19 test required for any person entering the state. This is at the Jammu dealership. As I said, we were forced that we could not proceed further to Srinagar. You can see Dal Lake out there. That would have been Srinagar. And then we came back to Chandigarh. And again, Marriott had not agreed to sponsor us anything. This was just a booking I made. But obviously, in their database, they had an alert that I'm on this All India ride. And this is how I was welcomed. Even though I made this booking in Chandigarh, less than 24 hours. One of my friends had just completed 1 lakh kilometers on his Harley, and he was throwing a party. And when he heard that I was in the north of India, he says, I don't care, you're coming to Chandigarh for my party. It's like a order. So Srijan, I think, will know Prince Kapoor. And when Prince makes a command, everybody just listens. Next morning, we just departed to Jaipur. This is something neat we saw on the highway. Now, a lot of these kind of food stalls have come up. I mean, these are food courts rather. I take this back. So you can see, there is Costa Coffee, there is a Pizza Hut. On the right side, you can see through the glass. And you've got a whole variety of fast foods across, it's like a big food court, proper, nice, clean bathrooms. Because that is something we really wish for on the highway. That is something we miss even today in India, is we don't have good hygienic facilities. Men can still, go, behind a few bushes. But for women, it becomes a huge, huge issue. And I think that is something the government needs to focus on building in terms of building facilities. Lovely places like this are beginning to come up, and they're doing very good business. This gentleman we met, he's a Harley rider based in Jaipur. And then as we went past him, he flagged us down and we just shared notes. And he says, I'm from Jaipur. And this is how you make friends on the road. And this is us approaching Jaipur into the sunset. Moon is rising while the sun is still setting. Sorry, it's a little slightly, this thing photograph, a slightly blurred photograph, but I wanted to show the moon rise. And look at the color of the sky here. This is, this is the kind of pink which was all across the sky on one side as the sun was setting. Glorious color, glorious color. The photograph just doesn't do it justice. It's such a beautiful color. In fact, I commented, is Jaipur a pink city because of the sky or because of the stone? Such beautiful vistas, such beautiful vistas. And then we were at the Ibis, and when I told the chef about our thali in Gujarat, he got inspired. He says, I'm going to make you a proper Rajasthani thali, totally vegetarian, beautifully soft rotis. In fact, the next day, instead of carrying bread, that we normally carry, we asked him, and he made homemade, parathas. And that stayed with us for the whole day. It remained moist. And you can see the variety of food, but very dry desert food. Lot of, you've got chili, you've got this thing, and a lot of dried items like dals and pulses and, the chickpea flour, that kind of stuff. This is en route to Indore. Again, the NH48 was in quite a bad condition. This is somewhere, I think, near Ujjain, stopped. Every about 150, 200 kilometers, we would stop, because you're riding in a bike in the sun. You absolutely need to hydrate yourself. Otherwise, you will get into a serious problem. And so we would stop, we would hydrate, in this case, admire the fields, the cows, various things like that. And pretty much everywhere we went, we were stopped. But anyway, this is, and you can see now, the beard is beginning to grow, because for about 11, 12 days, I hadn't shaved. This was probably the most challenging part of our trip. There is horrible, horrible, horrible roads in Madhya Pradesh. The word horrible doesn't begin to describe the roads. They're terrible. But we started off, you can see this is the width of the mountain road, okay? The main highway, national highway, is totally broken. So this was given to us by the local bikers. They said, take this route. This is North India's version of speed breakers. Anywhere you go in North India, cows are on the road. You can't do anything about it. You get stuck. You have to just sort of deal with it. We went through so many villages. The motorcycle revolution has definitely hit the Indian villages. See, of course, the most common bike is the 100cc bike. And buffaloes and cows occupy the road. This thing. We were talking about tribals. This was in one of the tribal areas, and we stopped for taking a drink of water, and instantly we were surrounded. And, oh, where are you coming from? Where are you going? And I started asking them, how has Corona affected you? And they said, no effect. We are going about our work. We are growing our food. and we are leading our lives. So the whole thing was, the general mood of the country was very positive. Even within Haryana and all, when we stopped for fuel, people were like, अरे सर कोरोना को छोड़ दो, कोरोना आया कोरोना चले जाएगा, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ये हरियाणा है. That kind of very sort of self-confident, arrogant kind of attitude that, boss, we will overcome, corona has come, corona will go, nothing will bother us, we are there. But you can see the poor condition of the roads. This is one thing I see. This is supposed to be National Highway 57 or something like this. This is Madhya Pradesh's idea of a national highway. This is how we were riding. It is just gravel across, and it's literally one lane. So if a truck comes, you have to stop. This is the concept of roads in Madhya Pradesh. Horrible is not the word. It was really, really, really pathetic. We used to frequently stop at, roadside tea stalls, and we found that a lot of the tea stalls, the bigger establishments had closed because of COVID. But the small little tea stalls, mom and pop shops, they had started up. I guess, a lot of them were employed by the restaurants, and then when the restaurants closed, they lost their employment, and they have turned to, running these small little stalls. Little plastic chairs, one table, nice tea. We carry bread with us, have bread and chai. This is just again a panoramic view of the truck stop. You can see people truckers are repairing their trucks, everything. This is at a major intersection. This, believe it or not, is near the town of Betul. Nagpur is considered some of the hottest part of the country, but I want you to see the kind of grandeur, just see the kind of valleys that we have in the country. These are views that you're not going to get in an aeroplane. I'm sorry. This was a valley on both sides of the road. This is one side of the road, just beautiful, this thing. It's so much so the Sarpanch came, the Sarpanch of the local area was passing by. He stopped, he posed with us for photographs. And then this is, of course, just a thing to notice. What I noticed was that by and large, signage is not available. But you have a welcome to Maharashtra board and this kind of thing. I said, why can't they make this signage better? When you are having a turn off on the road, and you have things at one angle instead of one chota sign on the left. These are some of the unscientific things I'll discuss little later. At Nagpur again, we did not, this is not an official support, but there also they had got the news that we are on this trip. And so the chef baked us a cake, except instead of 9,000, he put 8,000. But again, moral support, constantly pushing us on. Nagpur to Hyderabad. This is some of the hottest parts of the country. Adilabad, Nizamabad, places associated with rocks and heat. Again, chota roadside stalls. We stopped to hydrate. You can see Jagannath holding a water bottle, cleaning up, clean our glasses, clean the windshield. This was the first sign we saw that that said Kanyakumari. The reason, you can see my two fingers forming the letter K, so K to K to K. Please see this vista. This is in Adilabad, some of the hottest parts of India. But just see the beautiful valleys, beautiful, just simply fantastic. At Hyderabad, the GM is again a hog. Just like Srijan is a hog here, this guy, Zubin is a hog in Hyderabad. So he rode out to the highway to welcome us. And the chef baked a cake, showing, okay, these are all the places you visited. The five Fairmont hotels the 5 Accor hotels we visited. And then the last one was the Novotel on the way back. And this is the gentleman, the chef, a very, very talented person. See, these are the things that basically kept us going. Everything else, is just this thing. This is the moral support we require. This is something very intelligent. It's one of the only hotels. Srijan, I found this is something really cute. The normal hotel closets, you can access only from one side, which is the room. This side, the opposite side, is accessible from the bathroom. So you don't have, you don't have to come out of a hot bathroom after taking a nice shower. You don't have to go into a cold air-conditioned room shivering to take your clothes. Your clothes can be directly in the closet. I thought it's a very, very ingenious thing. Hyderabad to Bangalore, again, through some of the dry areas that we face. But see, this is near Anantpur. Again, look at the view. Hills, greenery, fields, all kinds of this thing. These are the things that we ride to see. And this chain, Cafe Coffee Day, has made its name with the bikers because they have one very important thing that all bikers crave. They've got a clean, functioning bathroom. Every time we stop, we will always try and stop at a Cafe Coffee Day because at least that is some place we can go relieve ourselves. This was the Bagepalli toll gate at Karnataka border from Andhra Pradesh. And this, of course, is a toll gate I think most of us will recognize. It is the airport toll gate when we re-entered Bangalore. Unfortunately, at this time, despite his smile and his thumbs up, Jagannath had a serious elbow problem. His elbow had started hurting to the point where the doctor prescribed him 1 month of rest. At the age of 67, I don't fault him. So I had to find another partner to carry on to Kanyakumari. The other on the en route, Sanu Palil, who was riding a GSA, his shoulder started giving extreme trouble. He had to drop out at Delhi. Vinay Agarwal met with an accident, in near Jammu. He had to drop out. So it ultimately was just Jagannath and me. And that puts added pressure on both of us because normally when we go in a group, one person takes the lead, looks at the road, makes sure the road is clear. The number of hazards on the road is simply unbelievable. And one person plays the role of a sweep that any weak rider like Jagannath, who's slightly elderly, doesn't ride very fast, is able to, is sort of kept up with the group. Unfortunately, in this case, I had to play the role of lead and sweep. And it became quite an issue. Mr. Jagannath 1 or 2 times wandered off the road, went into some villages, and we were like panicked as to where he is. He's got lost. Anyway, then this is the longest segment we did in our trip, almost 950 kilometers in one day, Bangalore to Kanyakumari to Madurai. And again, please see, these are the hills of Denkani Kote on the way down to Anchetti. Beautiful, beautiful ride. I mean, this is en route through Hogenekel also. And then this gentleman is Abhi Revankar. He rides a Ducati Multistrada Enduro. And of course, I'm on my trusty Road Glide. You can see for emergency, my blood group is posted. I think this is somewhere near Karur or thereabouts, just the highway. And we would stop again at a simple stall for some chai. And if we felt hungry, like a paratha or something like that. This is approaching Dindigal. Beautiful little bunch of hills on the way, lovely sweeping roads. You can see the weather, perfect. On the outskirts of Madurai, a little bit of sun, actually a little bit too much of sun. We would leave our bikes to just spend half an hour to go and have chai, and the bike seats would overheat. So we had to actually borrow water from the hotel and this thing. This is approaching Kanyakumari. Please see the number of windmills. I mean, it was just a sea of windmills. Wind power Jindabad. You can see the satellite navigation showing, where we are on the right on my bike. The nav map on the bottom right of the screen. You can see we are closing to Kanyakumari. And this, of course, is then my goal, that Kanyakumari, the sea behind us. So this is sort of my celebratory, pose, the K2K symbol, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and then back to, or rather Kanyakumari to Kashmir, back to Kanyakumari equivalent. Just again, a panorama shot, but you can see Kanyakumari, which is a major tourist destination, was virtually deserted. Again, on the way back, lovely, these are the hills, and you got these huge lakes. I mean, these are just some of the views, and this is a picture that I took, and in the setting sun, I wanted to just see this thing. And then my friend makes a comment later on. I didn't realize it at that time. He says, Devesh, this flag, this picture represents the flag of India. You've got orange on the top, you've got white in the middle, you have green at the bottom, and literally the sun is like the chakra in the middle. I didn't observe it initially, but I think this is the flagship photograph of my trip. These are the things we ride to see. Of course, Madurai, very famous, Amma Mess. This is a prawn dosa and other things. Next day was a leisurely ride back. I pretty much completed everything. It was just a matter of getting back from Madurai to Bangalore. Nothing eventful. We stopped at this lovely hotel south of Salem called Ramalingam. They have been in existence since 1936, and their specialty is biryani. This was the first time in my entire trip that I ate non-veg for lunch. This is at the end of the trip. I had this was not including the 780 kilometers that I had done to Coimbatore. So 8,200 kilometers completed at the end of the trip. And of course, I was promptly welcomed back by my dear Rottweiler, who we have rescued from Cuba. This is my journey log. As you can see, the stamps of all 21 dealers from across the country. As I said, I would be remiss without showing you the kind of support and safety we saw at the Accor hotels. And actually we saw it at all the Marriott, all the multinational hotel groups, all the major hotel groups. Here they would disinfect our baggage even before we entered the hotel. Of course, all the usual checking protocols, etc. You can see all of them wear face shields, they wear masks. In the case of the Novotel, they have incorporated a UV sanitizer into their X-ray machine itself. And again, all the staff is fully this thing. You can see at the check-in desks, they have these shields, again for their security as well as ours. And you can see they are maintaining social distancing. Okay, one group, one family is allowed to occupy one particular desk at a time. This was, I think, at the Pullman in New Delhi. Again, you can see the plastic shields at the check-in desks. This is something very intelligent I saw at the Novotel in Ahmedabad. They've got these little sticks mounted. So if you don't want to touch the buttons, you can use a stick. But the other one thing very neat that I saw, if you see the card reader near the top of the photograph, if you put your room card against that card reader, it automatically selects the floor in which your room is. You don't have to touch. So it's totally contactless in that regards. This is in Novotel again. They had air purifiers in the corridors. Again, just a sign of, just additional security. Of course, usual at every lobby landing for the elevators. This is something again neat. I think even Srijan, please confirm to me. I think even Conrad and practices something like this. Once you clean the room, you sanitize it, you seal it till the guest breaks the seal, right?
Correct. It's the same. It's called the Hilton Clean Stay Program for all our 6,200 hotels. And we don't offer the same room. We keep a 2 days gap, and
Okay.
only then we offer the room.
Right.
But this is quite impressive because this is the sign of confidence that you provide to the guest.
No, and that's what you see. As a traveler, we also felt safe that we are traveling and we are minimizing the risk of COVID. See, for me, it didn't make so much of a difference, but of course, somebody like Jagannath, see, these are different hotels. All of them are sealed and sanitized. All of them have, sanitizer, everything lying everywhere. If you see, even the food at various things are fully sealed. The juices, you point out what you want, and they will, have somebody pour it for you. You can't handle it. Even and you can see all the snacks, everything. What they've done is they've written the various health benefits. They're all working towards people's mindset on eating healthy, being healthy, etc. Again, this gentleman, this is Jay Sudhakaran, right at the at the head of the table, with his two thumbs up. He's the GM of the Novotel Ahmedabad, the one who wrote the Heroes thing. This is the group at the Ibis in Jaipur. Next to me is the GM, and next to him is the executive chef. So Ibis is much more casual in its approach, but you can see that. And everywhere we went, small little touches, housekeeping, welcome back. They kind of recognize that who are the frequent passengers, or rather frequent guests. So that is this thing. I think most people saw the video. Would you like me to just play it again for the benefit of everybody?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this was as I said, this was the welcome at Hyderabad we got. As I said, the GM Zubin is also a hog. So he escorted us all the way from the highway to the hotel. This is at the airport. So this was the video made by the hotel. This is at Jaipur. So we were given an absolute royal welcome, right down to the beating of the drums, showering of flower petals from the top, trumpets, everything. Srijan, you'll have to tell me later, that gentleman who's playing that, they're the traveling bards. You can see the background. I was talking about that quadrangle, the beautiful this thing. This gentleman, Rajiv Kapoor, he's the GM, the successor to Srijan. And this is where they, put a peta on our head in the Jaipuri Bandi fashion. So that is the trip, and then I had some observations. Would you like me to make them now, or do you all have some questions first?
No, you go ahead with the observations.
Okay.
Devesh, then,
As I said, what I pointed out, the urban areas, a little concerned about COVID. The rural areas are just going about their business, life progressing. The lot of the larger eateries are, at the toll plazas and all are closed, but there are a lot of small shacks, dhabas. Many people are running small little kirana shops, sending chips and peanuts, things like that. Lots of trucks on the road, few cars. I must congratulate Morth under the leadership of Mr. Nitin Gadkari. Generally, across the country this time, unlike 2 years ago when the roads were in quite bad condition, now the roads are in a pretty good, to in some cases excellent surface condition. I think probably the state with the best roads is Tamil Nadu. Butter. That's all we can say. Very distinct. Madhya Pradesh roads are terrible, is not the word. Maharashtra has got generally poor roads, and around Satara there is absolutely no road. This is a 3-lane. This is a main national highway connecting North and South India, NH48 or what is called AH47, and it's in horrible condition. It's in horrible condition. Rajasthan, now the roads have generally improved, but certain roads are in very, very bad condition. And for some reason, they seem to be taking forever to make the roads. I don't know why. I call the national highways the killing fields of India. I think, the Ministry of Family Planning should basically take over this responsibility. They charge tolls. This is on top of our major road taxes, fuel taxes, and everything else, but they do not deliver safe roads. Road repairs, upgrades, constructions take years on end, and in many cases, they are not even done. And there is absolutely no enforcement of traffic laws. The only people you will find out there are the RTO and all. They are there to basically harass and take, something from the truck drivers. And if they see you're an out-of-state personal vehicle, then they will simply catch you, show me pollution certificate, show me your license, show me registration, for no other reason, just to harass. The other thing what we found is that there is there's a very low level of knowledge and skills that are required to drive on highways by many drivers. I mean, they think that highways are just an extension of city roads. They will stop in the middle of the highway. If they miss a turn off, they'll reverse. Now you're coming up the highway at 100 kilometers an hour and this guy is going in reverse. I mean, that's, it's like all of a sudden crazy is not the word. They allow, the shops and dhabas and all to be constructed right on the edge of the highway. The trucks will just enter the highway at 10 kilometers an hour. You're going at 100. Trucks will just simply swerve. This is, in fact, how Krupa Reddy lost her life. One truck guy just swerved across the lanes and she came under the wheel. Things like this. It's very, very, very poor. Very poor. We have the infrastructure, we just don't know how to use it. And add to this the entire highway system, very unscientific design and usage. People will have cuts in the median at a corner. Now, if you're taking a turn and there's a cut in the middle, by the time you turn on the turn, if somebody is coming through the cut in the median, you are sunk. You have no way of, you can't, especially on a motorcycle when you're banking, if you hit the brakes, you are going to skid. I was talking about signage. Even today, if you go from here to Chennai, at Krishnagiri, they've got literally a sign that is the size of, 2 feet by 1 feet, pointing Chennai in one chota arrow. This is a 3-lane national highway. People are going at 100 kilometers an hour. Who's going to read such a small sign, that too on the left? For their own promotion purposes, they have these big signs in the middle of the road. That, oh, I did this, or this political party did that, but not for traffic signage, which is kind of crazy. Similarly, they've got expansion joints, uneven surfaces on curves. You're getting ready to take a curve on a bridge and you suddenly bounce. Now your entire vehicle is destabilized while you're in a turn. You're inviting trouble. There is no control on vehicle. Anything from bullock carts to tractors to even those Chota Tata Ace and Apes and all that, everything is allowed. Look at the unscientific thing. They've got 6 different speed limits with only 2 lanes. So the differential, the delta, if you look at it, cars are at 100, 3-wheelers are at 50. It is like you going and standing in the middle of a city road, cars going around you. That is the 50 kilometers an hour is the differential in speed. Trucks also, even though they are officially they are allowed 80 kilometers per hour, they mostly travel at 50 or even lower. And they are underpowered vehicles. And so even the mildest of gradients drop down to 20, 30. And let's talk about the locals. So they could not care. For them, the traffic laws don't exist. So much so, just now I was in Salem. There's a guy coming the opposite side of the road. He's coming completely against the traffic. And when I honk, he has got the gall to show me finger as if it's my fault. That is the level of, this thing. They could not care less. So this is what I feel that we should propose to the government, is that we should have a national highways traffic police. Because rural police are at the mercy of the local population. They flaunt traffic laws with impunity. And many times the police is also from the same area, same community. So, you have the, Namnu Uru, Namma Ilaka, 9 my caste, everything works out there. Accidents are just used as a means to extract money for the locals. So I think the BCIC should make a proposal to the government that they should have a specialized mobile police force along the lines of the CRPF, which is specifically mandated only to enforce traffic laws on national highways. This way, you will eliminate the local police, and anybody who's flouting the laws will get challan. It will require a change in laws, but I don't know what all that will involve. I also feel that India has to evolve its entire ecosystem for vehicles, and it should also begin with licensing and vehicle categorization. We have got a huge diversity of vehicles, whether it's two-wheelers, whether it's four-wheelers. If you look at two-wheelers, I think Dr. Devarajan is not here today, but he makes a TVS moped, which is probably, just a couple of horsepower. And we have got super bikes which are over 200 bhp. Just in comparison, to give you an idea, even the big Toyota Innova, sorry, what am I saying? Toyota Innova is 146 bhp, still weaker than a super bike, but it weighs 10 times. It weighs 2.5 tons. The super bike weighs 250 kilos. So you can imagine the speed at which we can go, the speed at which we can accelerate. But still, there is no difference in licensing for a person who has to ride a moped, for a person who has to ride a super bike. That's why you have a lot of kids meeting with accidents on super bikes, because they are not licensed at a progressive level. I feel that we should have a graded licensing system. I think Singapore is a good example, that they have a level 1, level 2, level 3. So you can, you're allowed with a level 1 license only to purchase a vehicle of this capacity. Level 2 is a higher capacity. Level 3 is kind of unlimited capacity. And at each level, you have to have certain amount of experience. And at each level, you need to have a certain you have to undergo a much more stringent set of tests, both in terms of written as well as simulators. I also believe that for truckers and other people, generally people who are using the national highways, we have to introduce like a national highways license, or at least an endorsement that has specific highway driving requirements. You can't just stop in the middle of the road. You have to signal while changing, how to look ahead, how to make a turn, basic things. Trucks are driving on the right side of the road. It's crazy. So we need that. Because if you want to drive on a national highway, you need this license. Otherwise, you're not allowed. End of story. A ground up, as I said, overhaul of the vehicular ecosystem. I think one of the biggest things we face in trucks is overloading. It's easy to install load sensors on the truck axle, which the moment if a person overloads their truck, the engine switches off. They get stuck. Vehicle manufacturers, I don't know how they do what they do, how they come up with the payload rating of their truck. They'll say my truck is capable of carrying 20 tons. Heck, 1 in 3 gradient. I mean, the 1 in 30, 3-degree gradient is 1 in 33.33 gradient. The trucks cannot do more than 20 kilometers an hour. So I don't know what is the power rating of the engines. We have to change our entire insurance rule system. Today, there is no concept of liability. It's like, the truckers or anybody says, okay, yeah, you make an accident, you go claim from your own insurance company. If you try to claim from my insurance company, first you'll have to repair your vehicle, then you'll have to file a case in court. Then the court has to make a judgment, and then the insurance company will challenge the judgment all the way to Supreme Court. For what? Why can't you have a trained investigation section of that same National Highway Traffic Police to make spot determinations? Similarly, toll operators, they are just they just don't have facilities what they're supposed to offer. They take the money, but they are just not delivering in terms of a safe road. They're not delivering simple things like a bathroom. You don't have a simple clean bathroom at a toll station, which they're required. And the last thing, I think the next time we have any kind of seminar, symposium, anything on traffic or anything related to vehicles, the first thing I would ask the people who are talking on the stage is, did you drive yourself or were you driven here? And if you are driven here, then please step down and have your driver talk about the problems they face on the roads, because they are the ones with the practical experience. And that's about it. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I am a touch late, but I'm open to any questions and answers you may have.
Oh, that's a fantastic.
Dr. Bala. Sir, Parshuraman Sir, kindly continue, sir. I interrupted you.
No. I know your passion for bikes, and he is a great rider. Anyway, now you met Devesh today. You know what he is. So Bala can get
Fantastic.
connected actually. Yeah, Bala is also kind of. He has taken a lot of trips. Devesh, and he's a passionate. You have also David.
No,
Harley
I
Davidson.
don't have a Harley. I have a RE, Royal Enfield.
He's got a Royal Enfield 500, which is no less capable. The number of people we saw on bullets traveling across the country is again testimony to the strength of Royal Enfield as a
But
vehicle.
he has written. I read his book. He has written a book on his driving. That was what the name of the book, Bala?
A Ride on the Road Excellence, sir.
I think he has written a book on that, right? I think I read that book. It's amazing. So I think today you could get another friend who is on similar platform.
Oh yes, very much, very much.
And I
Mr.
think Deveshji, it adds off to you. Really, you took us from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. And I think the journey is something, literally I could imagine the entire India. I think the kind of pictures, the video clippings, the kind of experiential sharing, amazing. I think people have lots of questions, I think. I don't know whether you'll have the time to answer all the questions today, but
The patience to wait, I'm happy to this thing.
Devesh, I'm Prabhakar.
Yes, sir.
Prabhakar.
Yes,
So,
sir.
was there any medical emergency on the way, and was there any occasion to go to any doctor? And how was the treatment by the doctors?
Sir, let me tell you, we in the last 6 months, we have lost number of riders in the last 6 months. Not even the last 6 months, in the last 3 months at least, I know personally 6 people who have died. And some of the most experienced riders in the world. There was this one gentleman called King, and he hit a camel, and he has died. And he has ridden all the way from UK to India on his adventure bike. Now that is the level of experience. But still, I told you, animals, everything on the roads. That's why I call the Indian National Highway system the killing fields of India. There is, and God bless, if you, I don't know if you noticed on my jacket, I have my blood group already put. We carry kind of all our medical information, in our jackets. We typically have a cheat pocket on our sleeve where our medical information is, kept, so that if we ever meet with an accident, but sir, en route medical conditions are bad. I mean, sir, it is like any other city. You have the small hospitals everywhere. If you want to go to a bigger place, you have to go to a bigger city. The bigger problem is that there is no way to safely transport you. The time taken for an ambulance to come and take you there, you will bleed to death. So that's another area. That's why I said the entire vehicular ecosystem, the entire system has to be looked at in totality. Unfortunately, we don't have the concept of a transportation czar. I think Mr. Ashok Saxena might be able to clarify. I'm not sure, but even today, for a medivac flight, for a helicopter medivac flight, for any helicopter flight, they must have the company, whoever is the operator, they must file their flight plan 48 hours in advance. What is it? You're going to find out 48 hours in advance that I'm planning to meet with an accident or what? Thoughts. I mean, everything is disjointed. There is nobody who is looking at it in a holistic manner.
Okay.
I think Mr. Nitin Gadkari is a person who has the capability of looking at all of these things in a holistic manner and making proposals to, sorry?
Yeah.
That's what I feel. I feel that he should be the person, who is given, this responsibility of upgrading the entire ecosystem, insurance, medical facilities, healthy, like simple things like bathrooms, all these kind of things. These really need to be done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure, sir.
Mr. Divesh, this is Dr. Bala here once again. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wonderful, sir. Wonderful. It was like a movie. Almost I saw the time. It was like a Hollywood movie, a quick, exciting movie. But I would say the climax was very rightly, Mr. Devish, the last few slides. Very, very important for riders and also for any drivers on the road, especially highways. You hit the nail on its head. The rider, I share your thoughts. It's a killing field. So difficult to ride or drive on our highways. So difficult. But only things are though even my bike can go, may not be like an excellent machine like your machine. I test 140, 150, but I always drop back the speed to less than 100, especially because of those conditions what you mentioned, sir. What is the average speed you are able to maintain
Sir,
on a good road, Mr. Dev?
sir, even on the best of roads, we kept around 100, 110. We did
Oh,
not go
okay.
faster than that. Again, as I said, it is exactly what you pointed out. There are two ulterior motives. The faster I go, the lower the mileage. Ultimately, if I'm going to cover 9,000 kilometers and my bike is going to give me 20 kilometers per liter kind of average, that works out to 5 rupees per kilometer almost,
Yes.
So that's 45,000 rupees. If I can save 10%, that's another 4,500. So we keep at a decent pace, 100, 110. I think I would say more like we were at about 110, 105, 110 would be the typical thing. If we found an absolute Makhan road, we would take it up to 120. But that was
Okay.
about the limit of what we did. And the decision in terms of speed was not how empty the road was, but how fast could we stop the bike should some idiot cross the road.
Yes. Yes.
I think all of us
Excellent.
as bikers, all bikers, whether it's you, Ganesh, Srijan, anybody, we ride as fast as we can stop.
Yes.
Our speed is governed by our brakes, not by our engine.
Yes, sir. I may request you one tip, sir, here.
Yeah.
As a co-rider, what I request is the health is one thing in a long distance. One day ride going to Nandi Hills and coming back doesn't matter. When you go on 2 day, 3 day, 5 day, 8 day, 10 day trips, maintaining health becomes very, very important. Any special care you took to maintain your health, something you avoided to take or you took especially, you can share a couple of tips?
So basically, through the day, we would have a breakfast that was, one of the, you will not believe the dish that I miss the most. When a moment I cross, you can say, into Maharashtra, from outside the four southern states, the moment I leave the four southern states, the dish I miss the most is idli. It's simple steamed rice, so we would have, we through the day we would eat light. We would hydrate a lot. We would eat light. We would try to avoid the spicy and oily foods. Simple thing, if nothing else, I will take a roti and dal, and that's it. Nothing more than that. Just keep yourself. You don't have to. First thing is we never overate. Normally when we eat a meal, we try to eat to a point where we feel full. We deliberately eat less than that because otherwise, when you start feeling full, you get drowsy. And the last thing you want to do on a bike is even blink your eyes for a second because disaster will strike. So through the day, we would do that. Meals at night were high protein. So vegetarians also had a lot of paneer, a lot of, dal, roti, that kind of thing to recover the energy. Yes, at the end of the day, you've been riding for 12, 13, 14 hours, one beer, two beers, so that one along with khana, and then you go home, you go back to your bed and crash. So in that regards, these are the things that, and hydration on the road. We used to, as I said, drink at least about a liter of water every 2 hours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I will reach out to you sometime, sir. Thank you
Anytime,
so
sir.
much.
You're welcome.
Devesh, how
Sir.
many times your wife was calling you?
Never. In fact, I used to keep telling her, okay, please call me. I'm missing you. She said, I don't want to disturb you. I don't want to distract you while riding. But I don't know if you
Hello,
noticed.
hello.
Yeah,
Devesh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. the biggest experience actually you should share with the government of India, particularly NHAI,
Yes.
SOS calls and attendance by helicopters. This is very, very essential because I had seen some of the accidents while driving through the Europe way back in mid 80s and near Italy, Milano, and also near the SOS call given, and immediately the helicopters with medical aid, evacuation, etc., etc. This should go as a recommendation from you that you had experienced that
That's what I said.
such
Sir.
facilities should be.
See, the thing is, what happens in such a case, this is exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I heard you.
You need one person who has got that kind of authority bestowed upon him, because if you see, highways will come under Mr. Nitin Gadkari, helicopters will come under Mr. Hardeep Singh, Hardeep Singh Puri, the security will come under Amit Shah. Anything relating to finance and all that will come under Nirmala Sitharaman. So you've got all these competing ministries and their various turfs, and that's why I said you need somebody. This is a perfect opportunity, given the thumping majority that Mr. Narendra Modi enjoys in government. He should designate somebody like a Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who has been proven to be a capable and forceful and capable leader, capable of achieving this, and give him a 2-year target that he has to integrate this whole thing, bring in new licensing policies. See, unfortunately, the licensings are all controlled by the states. What can be done to change that? I mean, the national highways are considered is it a national property or is it a state property? Various things like that. These are a lot of issues that have to be resolved. But if somebody doesn't bell the cat, we will never embark on that. It requires a determined effort to utilize the entire ecosystem. It's like we were talking about manufacturing. It is like it's like putting a CNC machine in the middle of a village. Now, you can't have villagers taking a high performance CNC machine.
I know. So actually, your practical experience, you have seen from one part of the country to another part of the country, and you experienced everything possible. Now, this medical help by helicopters or evacuation and to the nearest big town, which have got the landing facility of helicopters, should be actually catered for. This is the benchmark actually of the global autobahns and the motorways, and India should have these facilities because we are also we are aspiring to become a superpower.
See, that
and
is
nobody can question your practical experience now. Nobody can question that you are talking theoretical. You have seen the every nook and corner of the highways.
No, that's why I said from BCIC we should make these kind of proposals to Mr. Nitin Gadkari, and see, as I said, we have to this thing. One of the other things, when you put a national highway traffic police in place. Now, if there's an accident, if you notice, they fly the helicopter in, they stop the traffic on the highway for 15 minutes. They load the person who is injured, move the vehicle off to the side, and then they clear the highway, and things go back to normal. In India,
it is not only the accident. Many things, major problems like cardiac arrest or cardiac problem comes in between while driving. So some system should be there for SOS, that the helicopter should come, evacuate the person to the nearest hospital, and their hospital should have the landing facility, particularly on the major highways of the country, like Bangalore, Bombay, or Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Bombay, Delhi, these type of highways, because the traffic is growing very high, and also the speed of the vehicles is becoming very, very high now.
Correct. So, and we've got a huge diversity of vehicles, sir. You take it that Maruti Alto is 46 HP. Okay, my bike is 200 bhp. I mean,
hats off to you. Yeah, you are driving a bloody monster.
No, I'm just saying that the best part about it is that's what I've tried to say. But then in the same category, you also, along with the Maruti Alto, which is at 46
Yeah.
bhp, I'm having a 460 bhp BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi or anything else.
Yeah.
Now, the requirement for me, the license requirement for me to drive the Alto is the same as for me to drive a 460 or even an 800 bhp Monster.
Yeah.
No wonder kids are taking their father's cars. You know, वो बोलते हैं ना अमीर बाप के बेटे. They take the car, they go ride, they have no clue because they have virtually no experience. And of course, the exuberance of youth is, you know, never going to be tempered. Okay, at our age, we exactly as Bala said, you know, we take our max speed not by the ability of the engine, but by the ability of the brake. Children don't do that. So, you know, they'll end up going and crashing. Azharuddin's son decided to go kill himself on the highway. So guess what? The city of Hyderabad says, we will not allow motorcycles on any highway. Arre, for what? Just because one fellow went and killed himself. No, motorcycles are dangerous. They are very slow. I said, great. I am faster than pretty much any vehicle that you can put on that road. What do you tell me? These kinds of granularities have to be brought in. You know, ki bhai, okay, gearless vehicle up to say 200 cc or 150 cc, from 150 to 400 and more than 400. These are these are some of the more important things that are required.
Actually, it's time for India
Devesh,
to benchmark, actually. Benchmark with the highways.
Devesh, one question.
Sorry, Saxena ji, President is asking a question. Yes, please.
Please, carry.
No, this is a kind of HR question.
What
From
question,
HR
sir?
perspective.
Okay.
HR perspective.
Yeah.
HR perspective. See, when you took this journey within 2-3 weeks of your COVID,
Yes.
definitely the family would have been in a lot of anxiety. And in spite of all those things, you could take up this challenge. So basically, what kind of pressures come and how did you manage those kind of mental pressures? From your own side,
Yeah.
taking up this kind of a journey, maybe 1 in 10 million or 1 in 20 million, I don't know the number. So what was the driving force and what was going on in your mind, Devesh?
As I said, sir, biggest thing was first and foremost, during I was almost isolated for a period of 1 month with COVID-19. I was not in for 2 weeks, but for almost 1 full month. So what I did was in the second half of the month, I made sure that I exercised a lot inside my room. I slowly started building back my strength. I was speaking to, the Mr. Srijan Vadera. You can make out by his body, he does a lot of good workouts. So he was a little bit of my guide and mentor, how to build back the strength. And then after I came out, first day I came out, I literally could not hold my bike upright. I was so weak still. So I continued my exercise, I continued my diet, and then I progressively, slowly kept taking longer and longer trips with my bike over the next 2-3 weeks to see if I had the capability. And I was very clear with my wife that I said at any point, if I feel I cannot handle it, or if I find that I'm stressed out, then I will not go for this trip. I will drop out. She, that way, hats off to Anjali that she relied on me being mature enough to make that decision that if I'm not capable of doing it, I will not do it. So that became that is where the family support is very crucial. And then, of course, you gave me encouragement. The people at Accor gave me encouragement. Srijan was there. He gave me encouragement. So like that, so many biker friends, they gave encouragement. It
was your inner strength which gave you this motivation. Inner strength. You had the inner strength. You had the willpower.
Is there, and the people, the inner strength was there, and so that is this thing. That is where
really hats off. Not an ordinary thing, Devesh. Really, really, very, very amazing.
It is extraordinary.
1 in 100 million can take this kind of a challenge.
This is extraordinary.
Hats off to you. Hats off to you.
And that too after COVID.
Yes. And
hats off to you. Keep it up, young man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ji. There are people like me, many people like me across the country who are who are doing these things. There's another gentleman by the name of Mohan Malappa. He's based in Bangalore. He rides a BMW GS adventure bike. And just now the Atal Tunnel opened up, as you know, in Ladakh. So he said, okay, I want to do the Atal Tunnel, on my bike. So he rode from Bangalore to Ladakh, went through the Atal Tunnel and rode back to Bangalore.
These are
That's
exceptions.
a physical state of mind. I think
Yes.
you could, challenge. And
It
really,
is-
we are very proud from Bangalore Chambers, and you should write a book on this. That is
Sir.
my only request. And
Sir,
definitely, we would like to showcase
would say
your
we
achievement.
should make a representation to the government. We should make a representation to the Prime Minister. Exactly what we have got.
Based on your ride, in fact, I would like to make a representation. Quoting your right, that is a kind of acid test for us. So once again, today for the shortage of time, but I request people to connect with Devesh and seek their clarifications, because it is like a beautiful storytelling. His own practical experience he has shared with us. Thank you so much, Devesh ji, and God bless you. And
Thank
you have
you
been a
so
role
much,
model.
sir.
You have been a role model.
Thank you
Hats
so
off
much
to you.
for your, thank you so much for your encouragement and support, and thank you for giving me.
I think your mental state of mind is nothing to, we have been only just talking from the, sides, but you really took it. And really, you look much younger now. I could see you much younger, Devesh. Huh?
I still encourage all my leader colleagues, business leader colleagues. If nothing else, I'm not saying get on a bike. Get into your car, go across the country. The experiences that you can learn on the road about the people of India is just amazing.
And hats off to your family also for the great support. Hats off to Anjali and Vedant.
Anjali, Vedant, Anchal, all of them very
Anchal, yes.
crucial. Very
I think, really, our special congratulations to the entire family. Well
Thank
done.
you.
God bless you with more and more achievements.
Thank you. Thank you so
With this note, I think thank you so much for this wonderful evening. And thank you, friends, for listening to one of the wonderful addresses by our past president, Mr. Devesh Agarwal. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. And
Thank
we'll
you,
keep
sir.
connected. Thank you.
Thank you so much.